First of all, I give praise to the Supreme Tongue Universe, God of my forefathers, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And due respect to the spiritual leader here, Chief Prince Ariel and Yasaska, to the Princess Chief and the Kohanim, Moreens, brothers and sisters, visitors that might be, greet you all in tongue of my forefathers. Shalom Aleichem and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Also, I'd like to start off with Adonai Septai Di Chakafia Gichi Lathiaka, Lord, open down my lips and my mouth should declare praise. Well, that was an interesting Torah that the brother had brought out, which we could learn quite a bit from it, and especially the last two verses, in the Torah, which is basically for those that, actually go through a rabbinical thing of wrapping tefillin before they get ready to say their prayer in the morning. One of the most interesting things is, besides, I'm not going to touch on the brother's lesson, but I'm saying the interesting thing is the beginning and the end, in relationship to, here we're going to come into the book of Bamidbar today, which deals with numbering and counting, and then it's going to be a time where counting won't be necessary. And that's how the Haftorah start off with, where counting just be a waste of time, because they'd be like the sands of the sea for numbers and multitude, And then when we get to the the very end, you used the word, where Shati Li Le'olam, I'll betroth you to me forever, and then it got conditions, Then it goes, where Shati Li, let me see how it goes. Where Shati Li, but Besadet in righteousness, and then it goes on where Mishpat, which was in commandments. Then it goes into Kesed, which is kindness, and Rakami, mercy. And then the last part, where Shati Li, Be'emunah is faith. And then it goes into Wada'at, knowledge. Because you got to have faith, but you have to have some knowledge to have some real, true faith. Et Adonai, to the Creator. So those last two verses, when they wrap the tefillin, they say those three things as they, wrap tefillin every day before they begin their prayer, major prayer and addressing. So, and so we start off with a number that we can't count. And then at the very end is how we stand with the Creator, So that's one of the things here. So when we go into the book of Bamidbar, as they call it, the first chapter, before we get into that, I'd like to say a few things concerning we are starting a new book, and it's interesting because it usually comes up just before Shavuot. Which those that was, we know you're supposed to count the Omer, so I'm sure everybody know, and you're supposed to count it as an individual, even though somebody might say it as a collective, you're supposed to count it as an individual. So when you count the Omer, you count it because you're anticipating that time where we actually celebrate Shavuot, but we know in that particular month. We're not sure the date, because you always say, well, the calendar wasn't fixed then. But we know around that time, at that particular point in time, 50 days, we actually completed the mission that God brought us to address us. Because he told Moses when he come out of Egypt that we are actually going to meet. He want to meet with the people. After worship and sacrifice on that mountain, he will meet with them there. And that's what has happened. So it don't specify focusing on the commandments being given at Mount Sinai at that particular time. When we talk about the book of Numbers, we talk about counting and, CHOKMAH HaPekudim, which is the actual beginning of the name that's given to this particular book, the fifth counting. And when we talk about the fifth counting, when you look back from the time of Genesis, when Yaakov family went to Egypt, that's the first count. So you have several other counts that's being made, and you open up Exodus, Shemot itself. It started off with L.A. Shemo, you know what I mean? And then talk about, you know, the names and how many people come up with everything, the number of 70 people, souls, to start another count. And then as we get ready to leave Egypt, we're talking about another count, 600,000, a round number. All right, and then after that, just before the sin of the golden calf in Ki Tasa, that particular Sidra, all right, then we start talking about another count. Every man gonna give a half a shekel. So we're getting a little closer in detail. You know, again, we start off with detail from the time of Genesis, and now we're starting to come into a little bit more detail and saying what this count is all about and why counting is so important and why this counting also could be detrimental. You know, because we know sometimes you say, well, you know, you number the children of Israel, you know, and it says that you number them a certain way so that, you know, there be no plague amongst them. You know, we know that later on, when we look at the book, within the book of itself, the Tanakh overall, we find out that it was actually 9 different counts that went down. You know, several even, you know, just running off the top of my head, you know, you find, you know, even Saul counted some people a few times. All right, there's 2 counts during the time of Saul. You read about David's count. You read about when Ezra and them come back from Babylon, and you read about their particular counts and stuff like that there, and you read about that a couple of times. So, you know, but throughout the book, when you check it out, you know, I usually just run off a little bit without bringing notes down, but I remember certain numbers. And since we're talking numbers, you know, certain numbers, you're gonna find that we was counted at least 9 times, you know, within the Tanakh, you know. And they say the final count, you know, ain't gonna be a true count, and that's the one that Hosea is talking about, the final count, because when we all gather from the 4 corners of the earth, it ain't talking about what the number gonna be. It's gonna talk about who we're gonna be, all right? And that's what's most important. So before we go up into it, I think we'll start off so I could be a little brief. So start off with the first chapter, first verse in the book of Bamidbar.
We're in the book of Numbers, chapter 1, verse 1. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
And Yehovah spoke unto Moshe in the wilderness of Sinai, in the tent of meeting, on the first day of the 2nd month, in the 2nd year after they were come out of the land of Egypt, saying, Take ye the sum of all the congregation of the children of Yisrael, by their families, by their fathers' houses, according to the number of names, every male by their polls, from 20 years old and upward, all that are able to go forth to war in Yisrael. Ye shall number them by their hosts, even thou and Aharon.
Hold it right there. All right. We're going to stop there just for a moment. All right. So now, when they talk about the word, Seur, which was, the head count. All right. I want to focus on just that head count. It also means to lift up the head. You know, raise an individual up when you count him. When you count an individual, he gets a certain type of significance, some kind of importance. Either, or the significance could be good, it could be bad, but it's some kind of importance that makes that individual stand out. Would you agree? Mm-hmm. I mean, give me a head nod. Can we talk about head count? So give me a head nod. But anyway, all right. The first time you read about that term being used, lift up the heads could mean elevating the individual or making an individual lead. The first time you read about it is when Joseph interpreted the baker's dream, and he used the word Yisah, Yisah. So that's a count, but it means to lift up as well. It's used in the sense of lift up, that Pharaoh going to lift up the baker's head, which was actually happened, in that dream after 3 days, within 3 days. So the word could be in a positive light or in a negative light. Now, another thing, when the first time we talk about the children of Israel being counted, it don't talk about their ages. All right? We read about ages now. Now we read about in the last Sidra how much an individual is worth. All right? But when you read about a male child being worth 5 shekels, Now you only count it as a half a shekel in this particular instance here, and able to be able to serve the Creator. So what's this big difference here? When you started off where a male child a month old is worth 5 shekels, and then a female a month old is worth 3 shekels. Now, when you really want to count me, I'm 20 years old and I'm only worth a half a shekel. Wow. You know, and to say able to go forth to war. All right, that means now what you know, you saying I'm worth less now? Then I'm getting ready to go out there and do battle, or I'm worth less now, you know, because I'm only qualified now at this particular point in time in life to be utilized by God. So it's a big difference now when you say I'm being utilized by the Creator. You know, at this point in time, I'm only worth a half a shekel, not even a whole one. You know, so how half a man gonna be any good? All right, but yet the Creator's saying this here because He's saying, look here, that what you have to do is that you're not all you can be without me. That's what it's bringing out. You know what I mean? And only at the age of 20, normally they have this thing according to Picard about ethics of father, which I'm not going to break down thoroughly all the way to today. I'll probably say that from another talk. But you know, at a certain age, you know, a child supposed to, start learn Torah at a certain age. You know, then at another age, you know, at 13, he started to learn, become obligated to certain laws of God. Then at a certain age, you learn Talmud. At a certain age, at 18, basically they should be married. At 20 years old, they should be working on their livelihood, what they really want to do in life. At 30 and stuff like that, they're supposed to analyze their background. 40, they should be already accomplished in certain areas there, understanding different elements of life. At 50, they're supposed to be able to give counsel. So when people think about an elder being 70 and all that stuff, 3 scores and 10, it's good if you make it that far. If you make it that far, but basically the average person didn't make it to 70. We read about the book about those people that had those, extra long lifespans and stuff like that on the other side of Genesis. And you read a few like Moses and Aaron on the other side, and then you read a little bit in the Judges about Joshua and them. I believe after you read about Joshua and Caleb and do the math, you don't read about anybody else that's up in, you don't read their age that I can think of. I mean, if you do, let me know. But I can't think of anybody else's age that we say, well, this is their age at so and so and so in time, that they reached. We surmise it when we talk about a king got on the throne X amount of time at a certain age, and he reigned for so many years, and then somebody replaced him, so he must have left this world. All right? So when we talk about numbers here, we're talking about at the time of 20, a person's only able at that particular time to be utilized for God and as an individual. One of the things, while we're talking about war, but they mentioned war here, it lets you know that at this particular time, this count took place on Rosh Chodesh of the 2nd month and the 2nd year. And we're being counted as an individual. So when you're being counted as an individual on this particular time, well, what it says that we're being counted when we left Egypt collectively. All right? And it was a round number, 600,000. But now it's going to focus on the individual. And we're going to focus on the individual a little bit more, as we go into this particular portion. All right? But this is given to Moses and Aaron, and who else? Pick it up from the 4th verse.
And with you there shall be a man of every tribe, every one head of his father's house. And these are the names of the men that shall stand with you of Reuben,
Keep going.
Elizur the son of Shedeur,
Keep going.
of Shimon Shelumiel the son of Zurishaddai,
Keep going.
of Yehudah Nachshon the son of Aminadab,
All right.
of Yissaschar Netanel the son of Zuar, of Zebulon Eliab the son of Helon,
Keep going.
of the children of Joseph, of Ephraim,
going.
Elishama the son of Amihud,
Keep
of
going.
Manasseh, Gamaliel the son of Pedazur, of Benjamin, Abidan the son of Gidoni, of Dan, Achiezer the son of Amishadai, of Asher, Pagiel the son of Akron, of Gad, Eliasaph the son of Deuel, of Naphtali, Akira the son of Enan. These were the elect of the congregation.
Keep going.
The princes of the tribes of their fathers, they were the heads of the thousands of Yisrael.
Hold it right there. All right. Now, one, this count going to take place when? On Rosh Chodesh of what month? The second month. What year? The second year after the departure from Egypt. All right, in the wilderness. So there's been a count, and it says for war to be able to make a progress. That means that the plan was, now you're ready to go into the land. But let's look back a little bit. We done did things with the golden calf and all that kind of stuff, and Moses had to go up there and pray for us, and he'd come back with a second set of tablets, and then we already built the tabernacle. So we have to have a timeline in our head that the tabernacle was only finished a month ago. From this count, from Rosh Chodesh of this month, the second month, YAH, all right, we just into the third month, all right, that the tabernacle was just finished and we're working full swing a month ago. So what we was doing for that first year. But anyway, that's another story. But I just want you to stay with the timeline that's going on here. And so the plan was, after all that, y'all ready? Get the numbers ready. We get ready to march and cross over. But you know how things go. Things derail. Because now that we come up with a plan, we want to send people over there, but that's another story. Check it out. See if it's all what it's cut out to be. But the plan right here, according to this, at Mount Sinai. Now, while it said, and this is where the place took place at in Mount Sinai. So we had the revelation at Mount Sinai, all right? Tabernacle set up in Mount Sinai, and yet we're supposed to move straight from Mount Sinai, not 42 stops, from Mount Sinai to go straight into the land. Something derailed it. So this is important. How do we wind up being alive and not moving forward? For all those years. So, and I think that's pretty interesting to think about. But also, they say about the heads of the thousands, tribal leaders. These tribal leaders, it's so important, is because that Moses and Aaron, how I know who belong in your family? I need the guys that know somebody, that know somebody, that know somebody, that everybody recognizes somebody, to say, this is part of my family. We didn't have Maury. We didn't have none of that kind of stuff about DNA checking like that. And these guys' names in itself let you know what they was about. Their very names, that they kept them same names. So when you go into the meaning of the names from the first and the last name, it's a message between the first name and the last name. And as this thing open up, which I'll probably talk about it another time. But I'm just saying, I'm just throwing those things out so you can pay a little bit of attention to those things. All right, but when we look at this particular thing here, we're going to continue. Let's finish this out from there.
Verse 17. And Moshe and Aharon took these men that are appointed out by name, and they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month. And they declared their pedigrees after their families by their fathers' houses, according to the number of names from 20 years old and upward by their polls. As Jehovah commanded Moshe, so did he number them in the wilderness of Sinai.
In other words, you got to have some paperwork or somebody certifying you are who you are. It wasn't like, who that person? He's been hanging around a long time. I don't know who he is. You know who he is? No, I don't know who he is. Who is family? We don't know. How many people you only know by nickname today? That's friends you knew for years. For years.
Right.
I ain't talking about no 1 year. I'm talking about 10 years. Some of y'all might only know your family members' nickname. You might don't know their real name. What's the name of the birth certificate? I don't know. So it had to be something in place to certify their pedigree and say they are legit. And they belong in this tribe. You know, you had brothers, I mean, when I was coming up, you know, that's in this dispensation, but this is real. You had brothers that they start off, you know, they choose a tribe. You know, say, I don't feel like I'm down with that tribe anymore. I think I belong to this tribe. Chief men, I ain't talking about no laymen. I'm talking about guys supposed to be chief men. All of a sudden now they ain't sure about their own pedigree that they say they were. This had to be sure here in the book. That's why you had the guy from the tribe say, yeah, he belong over here. I know about that family. These are the leaders of thousands. Over thousands. These are the leaders here in the tribe. And God called them out. Moses didn't pick them out. God called them out because they know who belong in their tribe.
Right.
That's very important. You know, and you know, we're Israelites today. You know, I used to say, well, you got to have a membership. You know, it said membership. There's a nation. No, we need to know if you part parcel to this area over here because you make policies and then you might decide to move on and leave your policy behind that been passed. So the thing is that certifying who's who is very important. So it's nothing new about that, you know. And so Moses and Aaron, though they chose tasked with the job, they must, you know, they must also have the leaders of those particular tribes there to verify this guy belongs to my tribe. All right, and one of the things here is that it started immediately, but it ain't going to end immediately. That means the minute they started to count on Rosh Chodesh, right? So on Rosh Chodesh they actually started to count, but you ain't gonna finish with all them numbers in one day. You ain't gonna finish with all those numbers in 1 week. And you're talking about 600,000 on the, we're using the round number, but it's actually, when we get to count, you know, it's 603,550, all right? So that's over 500,000 people you're trying to count in a census, and you verify their identity. You ain't just pointing out fingers, you know. And so when people had this issues about birth dates, and how I know you 20 years old or not if I don't have a record when you was born? You know, well, if I'm counting on Rosh Chodesh, you know, and when I started in your neighborhood, and you ain't 20, and you say my birthday coming up in 3 months, you ain't in that count.
That's right.
I'm counting now. Can you imagine that? You know, I started my count already. Oh, so-and-so's 20. Yeah, his birthday coming around. It's about next week. He almost 20. Round it off. Can't do that. That's how important that count is. Talking about, you know, that count had to be you 20 now when we start this count. Not I'll be 20 later on in the year. You 20 now. So that's why it was so meticulous. And a lot of times we look at this here and say it's a bunch of numbers and this is you know, become a boring section from some people. But the seriousness of when you're taking a census, when you're taking an actual census, and this is the first time you actually have a true census in the book. Besides, you know, when you talk about Jacob's family, of a nation. You know, you have a true census of a nation. You don't read no other nation prior to this time that actually have a census that's as deep and accurate as that. And verify this here and that. A lot of times, I did the census in 1980. You tell me how many people you got in your household, I believe it. Write it down. I'm trying to get out of there anyway. get to the next side, who's born, who's the mother, who's the brother, who's the father, whatever it is. What's your race? You tell me your race, I'm writing it down. I'm just writing it down. I'm going. I'm getting paid to go to your house, this address, get this names, fill out what you'll tell me there, and I ain't saying, well, show me some proof. Might sound like migration. I don't want to hit step on no toes, but this is what goes on. Right. All right? So the Creator wants this to be accurate. Right. And it's important because now they're going to have to also, this is weighty concerning land property. So it ain't just a census to go to war, but we got to know when we're talking about dividing up the land, what goes where? So we're going to have a bunch of counts in here. I'm going to breeze through it a little bit, but I'm just talking ahead of time. But hopefully, people be able to understand what I'm talking about as we talk about. This is just not just a census alone. They're going to deal with property as well. All right, moving forward. All right, so we know we ain't gonna read everything on this here, but
you want me to read the names and the number?
The names and the number.
Of the tribe of Reuben, 40,000. With 40 and 6,500.
Keep going.
Of the tribe of Shimon, 50 and 9,300.
Keep going.
Of the tribe of Gad, 40 and 5,650.
Keep going.
Of the tribes of Yehudah, 14,600. Of the tribes of Yissaschar, 50 and 4,400. Of the tribes of Zebulun, 50 and 7,400. Of the tribes of Ephraim, 40,500. Of the tribes of Manasseh, 30 and 2,200. The children of Benjamin, 30 and 5,400. Of the children of Dan, 60 and 2,700. Of the children of Asher, 40 and 1,500. Of the children of Naphtali, 50 and 3,400. These are those that were numbered, which Moshe and Aharon numbered, verse 44. And the princes of Yisrael being 12 men. They were each one of his father's house. And all those that were numbered of the children of Yisrael by their father's houses, from 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go forth to war in Yisrael, even all those that were numbered were 600,000, 3,550. But the Levites, after the tribe of their fathers, were not numbered among them.
All right, great. We'll stop right there. Now, before we go, before going any further, one of the things is that you find. I had a discussion years ago about. We was talking about months and the days of the months and all that kind of stuff, and God, don't use round numbers. We had round numbers when we left out of Egypt, 600,000. Now we have, the actual number. 600, 3,550. All right. So there's nothing wrong with, when we talk about years and stuff like that, and 40 years in the wilderness. Well, at the 40 years begin after we send people there, and we already been a year there, then the actual time there was slightly less than the 40 years. Just like when we say 70 years in Babylon, the actual time there was actually less than the whole 70 years. So the Creator used round numbers in some instances, but here it's so important here that we have accurate numbers because there's going to be a lot of other factors involved here. All right, but we know the Levites wasn't part of that count at this particular point in time. All right, and you say, well, why not the Levites being counted? Then they go straight into the next part, the duties of the Levites. Continue.
Verse 48. And Yehovah spoke unto Moshe, saying, Howbeit, the tribe of Levi thou shalt not number, neither shalt thou take the sum of them among the children of Israel. But appoint thou the Levites over the tabernacle of the testimony, and over all the furniture thereof, and over all that belongeth to it.
Keep going.
They shall bear the tabernacle and all the furniture thereof. And they shall minister unto it, and shall encamp round about the tabernacle.
Keep going.
And when the tabernacle setteth forward, the Levites shall take it down. And when the tabernacle is to be pitched, the Levites shall set it up. And a common man that draweth nigh shall be put to death. And the children of Israel shall pitch their tents, every man with his own camp, and every man with his own standard, according to their hosts.
Hold it right there. Before we get there, all right. Did we read about the camps, how the camps are set up? We didn't read about that yet. But it said they're going to have that, all right? But what we did read here that sometimes we might not pay attention to is that each camp had a standard, had an emblem to represent themselves. It said they had their own standard already. All right, so now, you know, I mean, if they had their own standard, they said, well, it's like some states got flags, some states don't have flags. Some cities have flags, some cities don't have flags. If you want a team, any team, whether it's a basketball team or something, you got your emblem and stuff like that for your team. Right. You know, your insignia. So we had standards. You know, we had a banner. Everybody, you have a banner here. Everybody had a banner to show who they're from, you know, and also explain a little bit about what they're about. Right. Everyone. So having insignias and banners is nothing new in the scriptures. And, you know, and it's saying that God they said they had their own banner. They had their own standard. So, but it said that this is what the Levites are supposed to do. So that their job was to deal with the tabernacle, and everybody else going to be pitched around the tabernacle. So this is the reason why they're supposed to be. But one of the things he said, well, how you come up with these standards? How did he come up with these banners? We could discuss them. I might just throw a little bit out there and say, you know, some viewpoints on it, but this is a question. What made Yehudah choose a standard like a lion? You know what I mean? What made Gad might choose a standard like a bunch of troops? And then what about the colors of their flags? And then why we got to fall under, you know, a certain banner of one particular tribe who's the controlling tribe standard. And then when you talk about a standard, do the standard just means that just describes my tribe or describes my character? When it's going, you know, as we're going to go forward, we're going to find 3 tribes in every cardinal point. All right? Continue.
But the Levites shall pitch round about the tabernacle of the testimony, that there be no wrath upon the congregation of the children of Israel. And the Levites shall keep the charge of the tabernacle of the testimony. Thus did the children of Israel according to all that Yahweh commanded Moshe, so did they. Okay.
All right, so there was no question about, and no issue about the Levites at this particular time. Mind you, the tabernacle is only a month old. All right, so when they finish this here, you know, it could be a few months, because we got when they decided to send people forward before they go into the land. Can you imagine? I don't like to go too far ahead of stuff, but you know, when I'm thinking about it, you know, sometimes it's hard to, you know, let it go. But can you imagine that once the counting is finished, the tabernacle standing up, and God wants you to move forward? You say, "Hold it, Moses." We need to send somebody over there to look there and check things out. Can you imagine that? You get ready to go ahead and get over there on the other side, and you say, "Hold up." And Moses said, "That sounds logical." Moses said, "That sounds good." And God, you know, that's how we got that portion, Shalak Lekah, send for yourself. That's it. A lot of us don't like to say Shalak Lekah, we just say Shalak. But the Creator replied, "Send for yourself." If I'm sending you someplace, that's all right. Something that's better for you. But sometimes we get in front and put a wall in front of ourselves. You know, because at this count here, we're supposed to be already making that progress. All right? We're supposed to be on the other side already. All right? Everybody, and at this particular time, we don't have no issues. Because, and this brings out a lot of other things too when we think about it. The issues that we have in the book of Numbers, and the Numbers covers a lot of stuff, and one of the things it covers, you know, like the counting, the numbers, the structure of the camps. Then you have all these different issues about, you know, choosing the tribe, who's going to be the priest, you know, who going, you know, the order of the Levites, the firstborn. Know why all that came up? We can imagine why it come up, because we stop and then say, nah. And then we got that 40-year bid. After we stop, and then went and check it out and come back, and them guys over there for a moment, and then you start that 40-year bid, that's when all the problems and numbers come up. So when we think about the word Bamidbar as being in the wilderness, in the desert, then we got words like the bed or atam at the bed, ivri. A lot of matters thinking. Do you talk? Too much talk. Too much talk. The word the bed is speaking, the talk, right? Help me out. Well, maybe I better talk to the glory or somebody. All right. So you look at that word, Bamidbar. Oh, that's midbar. Midbar. And we ask a person in the masculine, do you speak Hebrew? Say, Ata medaber. Medaber. Midbar. Daber. Speak. Too much talk. What's going on? Well, you got a lot of time on your hand. Just think about those issues as we go forward. So a lot of matters happened up in here for them 38 years in the wilderness, because that's the highest number we see in Numbers, 38. So it's a lot of numbers, a lot of stuff went down. Y'all with me now for a half a moment? I just want to make sure. Just a half a moment. I'm not trying to be too long. All right. But I got to paint a picture about what's going on now and what happens later on throughout the whole book of Numbers, because you got family issues in there going on, cousins, brother and sister and stuff like that there. You're talking about land stuff and about sacrificing and position and all that. All that takes place because we stalled. We halted in a certain area. All right, but go ahead.
Chapter 2, verse 1, hallelujah. And Yehovah spoke unto Moshe and unto Aharon, saying, the children of Israel shall pitch by their fathers' houses, every man with his own standard. According to the ensigns, a good way off shall they pitch round about the tent of meeting.
All right, just give me a few things, the way they pitch that, and how many, and that's it. And we're going to the next.
Now those that pitch on the east side toward the sunrise shall be they of the standard of the camp of Yehudah. Nachshon the son of Aminadab, Yissaschar, Netanel the son of Zeur, and Zebulun, Eliab the son of Kilon.
All right, okay, let's skip on now.
On the south side, Reuben.
Before, give me all of them that's on that side. Just the numbers, just the names, the names.
South side, Reuben, Shimon, and Gad.
No. We want to skip over the east. We get everybody there. Yeah.
The east side, Yehudah, Yissaschar, and Zebulun.
There you go. And who on the south?
South side, Reuben, Shimon, and Gad.
All right. Who on the west?
The west side, Ephraim, Manasseh, and Benjamin. And on the north side, Dan, Asher, and Naphtali.
Okay.
Verse 32.
Okay.
These are they that were numbered of the children of Israel by their fathers' houses, or that were numbered of the camps according to those their hosts, was 600,000, 300,000, and 550. But the Levites were not numbered among the children of Israel, as Yehovah commanded Moshe. Thus did the children of Israel according to all that Yehovah commanded Moshe. So they pitched by their standards, and so they set forward, each one according to his families and according to his father's houses.
Hold right there. Okay. So it's a patriarchal system. We got to know who your daddy is. That's it. I mean, that wasn't nothing new.
Yeah.
And all the other shows that we should see, they done stopped. And the only thing they talk about is DNA now. That's all they talk about. Who the father? What's going on? All this stuff. All right? But this was a thing that not only occurred and was important then as we come out of Egypt. So a lot of times, and the reason I want to bring this out is because a lot of times we always say, well, or even on some of our own, well, y'all ex-slaves, so the white master they way with the women and this and that and the other. So, and that happens a lot too. But everybody, God gonna wake up those that's actually his people. You know what I mean? So my sheep hear my voice and stranger not follow. They hear that in the New Testament. So if you hear that in the New Testament, what about the Creator when he wake you up? You know, the Creator wake you up and you gravitate to this way of life. You know, that's how you wake up, because He's calling you, and you accept that because we have that spirit. You know what I mean, from the Creator, where we can sense truth whether we understand it or not. You know, we sense the truth, and that's why we come. Because when you come in here and you say, "Well, yeah, that sounds right," and you live your life by it and put your life into it and everything else, your whole essence into it, because I'm learning more about what I say is true. All right, not that it wasn't true, but I'm learning more about what I say is true. You know, because I have the real inside spirit, or a godly spirit within me, where I can, conceive a truth and perceive it. All right. So now, one of the things that we find here, and I find interesting, is that suppose Judah don't want to be on the east side. Dan said, "Look here, I don't like it up north." You know, Joseph and his folks say, "Look here, west, why I got to be out in the west?" You know, everybody wants south side. Want to be on the south side. You know what I mean? When you know, they have a thing where none of the tribes argue about, and I'm going to share this with you. None of the tribes argue about what position they was placed around the tabernacle. So you wonder, why do you argue about all this other stuff? Have all these other issues, but they never had an argument about, Issachar and Zebulon's under the banner of Judah, and we out here on the east side. That never was argument. Well, we under the banner of Reuben, Simeon and what was it, Gad. Well, we over here with the tribe of Reuben in the south side. We under his banner, and they never argue about that. And so when they didn't argue about those positions, when God told them to put them according to their standards, according to their banners in those positions, it was never an argument about that throughout the whole period in the Tanakh. So, I'm just going to share this with you. Now, you can take it for what you want, but I'm just sharing this with you. Because it's one of the midrash things, all right? So, I like to share it with you, but I had to bring out some certain points, all right? Is that when Yaakov was being brought back into the land of Canaan, in the land of Canaan, all right, that his casket going to be carried by his people, all right? He had 12 sons, but he adopted 2 of them, all right? And they adopted Manasseh and Ephraim, all right? So if he adopted those sons there, so Joseph ain't gonna carry. He's second guy in charge. And Lewi, he must have had an issue where must have thought that he gonna be the one that the Creator gonna use, because the word Lewi means join. Right. All right, and since join, you join into what? Ain't joining, he's joining us to the Creator. Yehudah gather. Unto him supposed to be the gathering of the people. But after you gather the people, the people got to go somewhere. They have to have a mission. And the biggest mission we have is serving the Creator and being a light to the world. All right? So they say, I don't know. I'm just saying, I'm just throwing this out there. Give you some food for thought. It might not be palatable sometimes, but it's food for thought. That's why they never had an issue, because they say that this the same way they carried their father's, tomb from Egypt to Canaan and the Cape of Machpelah, and those positions. All right, and lifting it up like that. So that's why when it came to the tabernacle, they never had an issue about where I'm placed and who was the guy that was in the center running things. And then you notice when we go to the names also that it goes by, and this is Bilhah, the tribe of Dan, Zilpah kids, Bilhah kids. Mentioned Bilhah kids before they mentioned Zilpah's kids, because they was the oldest of the handmaids. Dan was the oldest. So they went by that order there when it comes to that. So it goes like Leah, Raquel, then it goes into Bilhah, and then Zilpah, like that in that order of the kids, how they was born. So, and you notice that one of the handmaid kids had to be a controller, and he's a controller of a child that's not a handmaid kid up north. All right? So show they had equal status with the rest of the children of Israel. So there's a lot that you can pick out from this particular thing that I'm sharing. All right? So let's go third chapter.
Now these are the generations of Aharon and Moshe in the day that Yehovah spoke with Moshe in Mount Sinai. And these are the names of the sons of Aharon: Nadab the firstborn, and Abihu, Eleazar, and Itamar. These are the names of the sons of Aharon, the priests that were anointed, whom he consecrated to minister in the priest's office. And Nadab and Abihu died before Yehovah when they offered strange fire before Yehovah in the wilderness of Sinai, and they had no children. And Eleazar and Itamar ministered in the priest's office in the presence of Aharon, their father.
Hold it right there. All right. Now, this is important history. All right? Because we know they died the day they set up and erected the tabernacle. A month ago. But we hear about these boys dying three different times. Right. The day they died, then Akre Hamuk, after the death. Right. All right? And then now we read it again in Bamidbar. These guys, boy, I didn't know somebody could die that many times. You know what I mean? But in seriousness, that they're mentioned several times because of the importance of these individuals. And then when they talk about these are the generations, you know what I mean? And I said, now these are the generation of Aaron and Moses in the day that the Lord spoke with Moses in Mount Sinai. And then it goes on to talk about, sons of Aaron, Nadab, and then it goes on with the four, Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar, right? It don't mention none of Moses' kids, children. So why would Moses be included in that? And this is one of the rare times that Aaron's name comes before Moses. Right. Aaron's name comes before Moses right now to show the equal importance. Each one had their virtue that's unique, in this particular instance here. Wow. And then when we find out, when we look even closer, at it, it said, why Moses, none of his children are mentioned. We know their names. Right. We read about them. We read about them before we read about Aaron's children. But none of them is mentioned because none of them had went through what these children had went through. None of them was in Egypt for all their years when they had to go and see the oppression of their people, and then no plagues were hit. None of them had to cross the Yam Suf. You know what I mean? None of them had to be up there when God spoke out the midst of the fire. You know what I mean? Get that great revelation. So, therefore, the Creator dealt with the people that had the experience, that lived the life. And then why Moses is mentioned that's part of his generation? Because he was their teacher. And sometimes when you teach somebody about God, you become like a father figure. That's why they got in the church, Father Flanagan, Father Murray, you know what I mean? You become like a father figure because you taught them about the true and living God, So that's why Moses' name is mentioned here, but none of his children is mentioned, though we know about his children. We know about his sons. We know about he had a wife that looked out for him. But they're not mentioned here because that is not their portion. They haven't lived the experience. They haven't went through the fire. They haven't went through the water. And then when we talk about the desert, and I'm trying to get to this before I run out of time, but as we look at the desert, and the desert area here is where we found God the closest to us. That's when we came closer to God in the desert. That's why the Torah talk about, reminiscing about that and speaking soft words, kind words, loving words in the desert area. Because sometimes nobody give claim to the desert. That's number one. Right. And also, it's very little distraction. That quiet place. So you can hear God actually, what do you say? Daber, speaking. We can hear God there. You know what I mean? In the desert. We can actually hear and tune our ears to that now. Because we don't have all, the distractions that go on. And also, no one claims the desert as their own. So, when Torah is given in the desert, as we look deep into it, when Torah is given to the desert, that means that we can't say it only belonged to Israel and nobody else. We belong to God. Everybody else belong to God. But God chose us for a responsibility, but Torah is not ours alone. You know what I mean? And so if you're supposed to be a light into the world, that means that you're supposed to also enlighten the world. So here it is that when we talk about Torah being, it's given to us in the desert, and that's where we have our most intimate relationship with God. Some were good, some were bad. But all this took place where? In the desert, right? With the least amount of distractions. But let's go a little bit further here.
Verse 5. And Yehudah spoke unto Moshe, saying, bring the tribe of Levi near, and set them before Aharon the priest, that they may minister unto him. And they shall keep his charge, and the charge of the whole congregation before the tent of meeting, to do the service of the tabernacle.
Right there. Now, I just can't help myself. I gotta keep going back. I can't help myself because I come from a place where we always focus on the history as well. When we deal with Tanakh and chronological orders and stuff like that. All right. They didn't have a problem with Aaron being a priest. They don't have a problem with the Levites doing what they do. Until when? Let me hear it together. Got the 40-year bid. We got the 40-year bid. That's when all that stuff jumped up. But right now, fresh out of all this other stuff, we ain't got no problem with no Levites doing what they do. You know what I mean? But when we had that death march and stuff, oh man, see? Now, so we're going to be out here for a while. I don't see why they got to keep doing this a while. Because as long as we're marching and moving, going forward, yeah, we definitely all right. And not only that, tabernacle going to sit somewhere and we ain't worried about that. We're looking at the land now. We focus on where we're going. But it's not always the goal. It's the travel that you got to realize and learn. That's why they had the thing Masay, which is the journeys of the stages. It's not necessarily the goal, but it's the journey that educates the individual. But when you reach the goal, where you go from there? But let's go a little bit further.
Verse 9, and thou shalt give the Levites unto Aharon and to his sons. They are wholly given unto him from the children of Yisrael. And thou shalt appoint Aharon and his sons, that they may keep their priesthood. And the common man that draweth nigh shall be put to death. Okay,
now we're just going to go to the census right quick. Just give me the names of the Levites are broken into three different tribes. I just use the word tribes in that sense. And just give me the tribes and the numbers, and a little bit about their job. That's it. I mean, when they count. I'm not going to focus. I'll say that for another time.
Okay.
All right.
Verse 11, and Yehudah spoke unto Moshe, saying, and I, behold, I have taken the Levites from among the children of Israel, and set up every firstborn that openeth the womb among the children of Israel, and the Levite shall be mine. For all the firstborn are mine, On the day that I smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, I hallowed unto me all the firstborn in Israel, both man and beast, mine they shall be. I am Yehudah.
All right, there. Before we go further, all right, I just want to break this down a little bit. I mean, elaborate rather, not necessarily break it down, but elaborate. All right. One of the things is this: that we find out why the tribe of Levi was chosen. All right. Some say, rabbinically they would say, according to the, sin of the golden calf, the Levites, it wasn't, as a whole, wasn't part of that, shenanigans. Though Aaron fashioned the calf and everything like that, it wasn't part of that wickedness in that sense as a whole. And taken in the place of the firstborn. That means that every firstborn is still sanctified. You know what I mean? Holy unto the Creator. Every firstborn over the matrix. That doesn't change. But the change that does happen is that you're supposed to be redeemed now. We got somebody to hold it down for you. That's what the whole tribe of Levi. Therefore, when they talk about the count for the Levites, they start from a month old up. And the Levites count several different times, in several different ways in this particular portion. All right, from a month old, then they talk about from 20, from 30 rather, from 30, and then it mentions, from the age of 30 they counted. Then you have also by tribes, the 3 different branches of the Levites, they counted in that section. So the Levites counted basically, a number of times in this particular portion, several different ways for several different reasons. But when we hear that anybody that's a firstborn, they automatically sanctified, but the job that you would normally have is given to a Levite now. So you no longer have that job. That's why you can be redeemed, and we didn't have no problem with that then. We didn't have a problem with that. All right, but let's go ahead. This is point 14.
And Yehudah spoke unto Moshe in the wilderness of Sinai, saying, Number the children of Levi by their fathers' houses, by their families, every male from a month old and upward shalt thou number them. And Moshe numbered them according to the word of Yehudah as he was commanded.
All right, give me the families and the Gershon, right? Names of those fathers' house.
The number of the Gershonites?
No, that's first.
Oh, you want to go through the?
And no, 17. Just give 17.
Okay,
first.
And these were the sons of Levi by their names: Gershon and Kohath and Merari.
Okay.
And these are the sons.
All right, now that's good. That's good. Those are the families. I just want to bring out the families. Now, just give me the number, the Gershon and their numbers. Because we had
7,000 of the Gershonites, 7,500. And their charge of the Gershonites in the tent of meeting of the tabernacle and the tent, the covering thereof, and the screen for the door of the tent of meeting, and the hangings of the court, and the screen for the door of the court, which is by the tabernacle, and by the altar round about, and the cords of it, even whatsoever pertaineth to the service thereof.
So in other words, these guys assemble and disassemble. All right, they handling the actual covering of the tabernacle. That's their part. All right, now let's deal with the Kohathites.
The Kohathites, 8,600, and their charge of the ark, and the table, and the candlestick, and the altars, and the vessels of the sanctuary, wherewith the priest minister, and the screen, and all that pertaineth to the service thereof.
All right, now when we talk about that, they had the most sacred job. All the vessels. That means both mezbeachs. You know what I mean? The golden altar and the altar, the brazen altar. They're dealing with that, as well as the Ark of the Covenant. They're carrying that. And anything that pertains to those items, then in the menorah, they're handling that. All right? The shulchan, they're handling that. So all those intricate stuff, that's their job. All right? And they had the most sacred job to deal with outside of the Kohanim. All right? So they're in a higher position as far as their job, dealing with certain things. All right? Keep going.
The Merarites, 6,200, and their charge, being the boards of the tabernacle, and the bars thereof, and the pillars thereof, and the sockets thereof, and all the instruments thereof, and all that pertaineth to the service thereof.
All right, that's good enough. All right, that's good enough for that. All right. So that's what they're dealing with. Then the Merarites, they got the heavy stuff. So later on, we know that they had wagons and carried them beams. Because them beams were no little bitty beam now. These beams was, gigantic beams that they had to deal with. And the sockets and all that heavy stuff, so they had the heavier stuff. So they're not carrying that on their back, where you got curtains and, and coverings that the Gershonites might have, and a few little items here, where the Merari, they had these solid beams because it was a wooden tabernacle, with sockets and all that, and heavy, silver sockets and all that kind of stuff going on, and gold connecting them. So that's what they had to deal with. And when we get down to the last part, that they had to, everybody had to keep to their own duty. So that means that a Merariite couldn't say, "Look, I'm gonna switch jobs with a Gershonite."
Right.
A Gershonite couldn't say, "I'm gonna switch jobs with a Kohathite." Man, let me see how it is to walk with this ark. Let me see how it is to carry this golden altar. Right. They had to stay in their own place because it was a death penalty if any of them from the other branch tried to say, "Let me hold it down for you today."
Right.
It was a death penalty. Right. All right. Continue.
Verse 39.
Right.
All that were numbered of the Levites, whom Moshe and Aharon numbered at the commandment of Yahuwah, by their families, all the males from a month old and upward were 20 and 2,000.
Okay. All right. So it said upward. All right. That means if you're alive as a Levite, you was counted. As long as you're a month old. If you're alive, now you could be saying, "Look at I just made 80." You know what I mean? Look at you count me. I got a job to do. I'm 80 years old, man. I've been around the world twice. Stopped on 4 times. But you were still counted as a Levite because you had a job. So we don't have a such thing as retiree in the nation of Israel.
Right.
All right, because you have a job as long as you live. If it ain't no more than giving advice, counseling, consultation. That's what your elders supposed to be in every society.
Right.
And a society that get rid of the elders don't last long. All right? But it goes on to let you know that they counted from that period. Now, see, you say, well, here's a Levite counted as a month old. All right, what would be his purpose? What would be his job? All right, his job to replace the firstborn. All right, but let's go ahead. Now we got the numbers of the count. Keep going.
And Yahuwah said unto Moshe,
44. Pick up from the 44.
And Yahuwah spoke unto Moshe, saying, Take the Levites instead of all the firstborn among the children of Israel, and the cattle of the Levites instead of their cattle, and the Levites shall be mine, even Yahuwah's. And as for the redemption of the 203 score and 13 of the firstborn of the children of Israel, that are over and above the number of the Levites, thou shalt take 5 shekels apiece by the pole. After the shekel of the sanctuary shalt thou take them. The shekel is 20 gerahs. And thou shalt give the money wherewith they that remain over of them are redeemed unto Aharon and to his son.
Hold it right there. All right. This is an important thing to think about. All right. Now, talking about now that the Levites was unique in this whole particular portion, and I want you to miss it, is that not only the Levites are the creators, but the cattle that the Levites came out with Egypt with, that's God's. Ain't that something? I mean, I hope y'all didn't miss that. You know what I mean? So he said, I thought that was my stuff for a half a moment. I mean, I left out with it. Said, you replacing the firstborn of Israel and your cattle, you don't need that. That's mine. They're going to be utilized for something. So that tell you about the level of the cattle too, because a cattle had to have a certain criteria of quality, all right. But you don't ever read about the cattle of the other people too, except that one that opened the matrix in every 10th. So our cattle is dealt with different. It's either the first, it's also the 10th. All right. So the first of your cattle, and then the 10th of your one of your cattle and your grain and stuff like that. Their 10th part. All right. So it's dealt with different here. So I don't have much time to elaborate on that. I want to get to a couple more points. All right. But when you talk about, they had to pay 5 shekels a piece, right? Mm-hmm. All right. Keep going.
And Moshe took the redemption money from them that were over and above them that were redeemed by the Levites. From the firstborn of the children of Israel took he the money, 1,365 shekels after the shekel of the sanctuary. And Moshe gave the redemption money unto Aharon and to his sons, according to the word of Yehoah, as Yehoah commanded Moshe.
Okay. All right. Now, what we find here, too, about the redemption money, all right, we find later on as we go through the book that they counted, they said they had 22,000 Levites. All right, but we know it's 22,300 Levites that they counted from a month old and upward. All right, so you wind up talking about, firstborn of Israel. They supposed to replace the firstborn of Israel, all right, of the other tribes. So you got 22,273 firstborns. So if you got 22,273 firstborns, and the book said they only had 22,000 Levites, when we just did the math, there's 22,300, then why those 300 is not being counted? Where several people, 273 people had to bring and pay the 5 shekels. And then how do Moses select who paid the 5 shekels or not? That's something, that's something that, they already, talk about, in traditional views. But I just want you to think about that if you got all these people that's firstborn, and if they're firstborn, period. Now, did it say the firstborn had to have an age? Different type of count, right? We were starting to count from 20 and upward. That's what most people were thinking about, 20 and upward, 20 and upward. But it didn't say when it comes to the firstborn that he'd be 20 and upward. He just had to be a firstborn. And he could have just been, a few weeks old as a firstborn. All right? Y'all follow me? All right? Because we talk about men and grown men all the time. But then when you talk about the firstborn, we think, oh, this guy about 25 years old, 30 years old, whatever, 20 years old. No. All the firstborn of the nation of Israel, out of them 600,000, so any firstborn male in Israel, it only came up to 273. That's something. All right, So now, and all you're going to have of the Levites in totality from a month old is 22,300. So now we do the math. How did the smallest tribe, Manasseh, so much bigger than the Levites? Why are the Levites so small? And they count from a different age bracket. 20 and upward, that's able to go to war. A firstborn may not be able to go to war. So we got to think about all that as we go forward. You're too young. God don't want you. You're 17 in the buck. That's it. So you're too young. In America, they take you 17, 18, whatever it is. All right? But God said you ain't qualified to fight for me. Ain't that something? All right? But there's some things to think about. So one of the viewpoints they bring out is that they say, well, those Levites themselves, that's the 300, this is one of the viewpoints. You could take it or leave it. But we know the math is right here in front of our eyes, that they's firstborn themselves. So a firstborn can't redeem a firstborn. That's one of the view. A firstborn can't redeem a firstborn, and it's obvious when we did the math and we see 300 guys and they only enumerated 22,000. All right? And so now, back to the other point, how did we choose who gonna pay the five shekels? That's something to think about. Y'all could kick it over, amongst Mullah, because it ain't in the book like that. But somebody had to pay. And we see the amount that's paid out, is accounted for. All right? So sometimes you got to think about what's left out in the book, but obviously should have been hinted on and spoken on in the book. All right? But let's go go a little bit further.
Chapter 4. And Yehovah spoke unto Moshe and unto Aaron, saying, take the sum of the sons of Kohath from among the sons of Levi, by their families, by their fathers' houses, from 30 years old and upward, even unto 50 years old, all that enter upon the service to do work in the tent of meeting.
Keep going.
This is the service of the sons of Kohath in the tent of meeting, about the most holy things. When the camp setteth forward, Aharon shall go in and his sons, and they shall take down the veil of the screen, and cover the ark of the testimony with it, and shall put thereon a covering of takash, and shall spread over it a cloth of all blue, and shall set the staves thereof. And upon the table of showbread they shall spread a cloth of blue, and put thereon the dishes, and the pans, and the bowls, and the jars wherewith to pour out, and the continual bread shall remain thereon. And they shall spread upon them a cloth of scarlet, and a cover the same with the covering of takash, and shall set the staves thereof. And they shall take a cloth of blue, and cover the candlestick of the light, and its lamps, and its tongs, and its snuff dishes, and all the vessels thereof, wherewith they minister unto it. And they shall put it under, and they shall put it, and all the vessels thereof, within the covering of takash, and shall put it upon a bar. And upon the golden altar they shall spread a cloth of blue, and cover it with the covering of takash, and shall set the staves thereof. And they shall take all the vessels of ministry, wherewith they minister in the sanctuary, and put them in a cloth of blue, and cover them with a covering of takash, and shall put them on a bar.
Hold on, before you go to 13. Before you go to 13, I just want to bring out some things here. That means they don't get the chance to see this stuff. This is done by the Kohen.
Right, it's covered.
All right. Before they bring it out and say, okay, one of your Kohathite guys come over here. Now the Kohen's a Kohath too, but he's elevated. One of them elevated Kohathites. But he had, we know Eleazar at this time. He the one got to make sure all this is covered up completely. So that means it's shaped like an ark. They told me this is the ark. I know I got to carry it a certain way. But how I know it's under there? This shaped like the altar. It's about the size. I know what the size was when we was making it before, when it was getting it together. But how I know if they use that gold right there? Because the stuff they ain't going to never, ever see. Technically. They're not going to see it. All right? So they got to entrust, and they got to be entrusted. So they got to trust, I'm carrying something sacred, and I got to, they got to be entrusted, not to be saying, let me just check it out, man, for a moment, make sure it's under there. This is a serious job. And when it's moving, how do the holiness of that individual vessel remain? The tabernacle is holy at one point and is common at another point. The Ark of the Covenant is holy at one point and common at another point. And so, do the covering make it common? Or did the cloud that hovers over that ohel, in the tent, when that say, I'm over here now. You go in there and break it down. Because we know the Kohen can't go in there but once a year to the Holy of Holies. So now, you say, well, and we might travel by day or night. Say, nighttime? What do you mean, tell me we got to pack up and go at night? But that's what the books say. Will we travel by day or night? So that's, you got to be listening for a horn as we go there. It's a blast. And it's time to move out. And camps got to move a certain way, which you find out later on in the book of Numbers. So there's a lot of stuff that's being given detail here. in this particular portion, that we don't see how it's going to be implemented when it's time to move out until later in Numbers. But we get, the setup before we get the movement. All right. All right, continue.
Verse 13. And they shall take away the ashes from the altar and spread a purple cloth thereon. And they shall put upon it all the vessels thereof wherewith they minister about it, the fire pans, the flesh hooks, and the shovels, and the basins, and all the vessels of the altar. And they shall spread it upon it a covering of takash, and set the staves thereof. And when Aharon and his sons have made an end of covering the holy furniture and all the holy vessels, as the camp is set forward, after that the sons of Kohath shall come near to bear them.
Okay, right, let's go into the 17th verse. Let's finish the 17th.
And Yehovah spoke unto Moshe and unto Aharon, saying, Cut ye not off the tribe of the family of the Kohathites from among the Levites.
Keep going.
But thus do unto them, that they may live and not die, when they approach unto the most holy things. Aharon and his sons shall go in, and appoint them everyone to his service and to his burden, but they shall not go in to see the holy things as they are being covered, lest they die. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Now, one of the things that we've learned from this here, and like I said before, you do your job without question for God.
Right.
That's what you do. You had that saying in the military, mine's not the reason why, mine's the do or die. All right? So the thing is that, and you know what's so unique? That God will slay him, but the Kohen is held responsible because he didn't do enough job of covering that thing properly. Ain't that something? He didn't cover it properly. You know what I mean? You didn't make sure it's fully prepared before you told that guy, the Kohen, I brought it out, y'all come on here and get this here. Ain't that something? So you held responsible, and that's why he said, don't get rid of them. And we know that section of Kohath, Korah who was hiding to be a Kohathite, we know they had some issues. But like I said before, and as we go forward in the book of Numbers, that all those issues start when you become idle. And the mission had changed. So one of the things I like to lead with, in Numbers, though I'm speaking briefly on it, is that we got to always have a mission and a goal to pursue and learn in the pursuit, about ourselves and becoming more enriched in it. Because we just say, well, all right, what's our plan? What we trying to do? Where we headed? All right, that's the goal. But in the pursuit, you start to learn about yourself and other people in that same pursuit with you. It's a journey. Who's slacking? Who's energetic? Anything you do. Y'all just had a big Shabbat service. I'm sure, I'm sure that some people work harder than others. That's the way it goes. Some people work harder because they was left with more of a burden than the other person. Some people was more enthused. Everybody was excited about having the date, the goal, and reaching the goal. But everybody wouldn't participate in the work. So, if we learn anything, everybody must, learn what they're good at, experience what they're good at, and you'd be more comfortable working within your ability than stepping out of your ability. You become more satisfied and you be more productive. And I hope you got something I would have said in this brief time, and any mistakes by my own. Shalom Aleichem, Shabbat Shalom.
Hallelujah.